Hi, my name is Shai. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Um, gonna keep the intro brief today. This channel is just somewhere I get to express myself, to talk, to laugh at myself, to reflect on some things that have occurred in my life, which I think is relatable to everyone. And you're welcome to join for entertainment purposes, to watch and observe, and hopefully take something out of it. If nothing else, get a laugh. Um, so today, first of all, I am reintroducing this little guy to the conversation because I realize it helps with the sound, but I also know you're supposed to clip it somewhere. But for me, and I'm welcome to the feedback on this, for me, wherever I clip it on my tops, it just looks bizarre and it just it doesn't work. It's dangling oddly. It's just easier to hold it. But let's see how this goes. Maybe this will be the last time I use it. Today I wanted to talk about friendships. Specifically, in my case, a lot of it will be really girlfriend relationships, but I've also had friendships with guys, which we'll touch on briefly. But I was reflecting the other day because one thing I do, like I said, I'm a big YouTube consumer. So when I go on YouTube, one things I love watching in vlogs is when people take group trips with friends and they have large, friend events. I was always the girl who thought one day, oh, I will have like this huge group trip, this huge group of friends when I'm at this stage in life where I am now, where I'm 42. And we would take these elaborate trips and we would reflect on our lifelong friendships, like friends you bring from childhood. That's one thing I admire too. People who have like childhood friends. But that isn't the case in my story, and it's fine. It takes maturity to realize some of those things for most of us is not realistic. You move around a lot, life changes occur, so you outgrow friends, circumstances change, so the chances you're going to keep those childhood friends if you're someone who's just gone through life and had changes is rather slim. But it doesn't keep me from looking at other people's lives and going, wow, I wish I had the friends who could be like, when we were 5, remember when we were in that primary school and we da 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 da. Yeah. um anyway, for me specifically, what friendship have taught me is, for me to call someone a friend, and I know I've made references here and there about friends, I could say I have like people I deem true friends, I can count on one hand. And that's specifically because I've realized for me to really deem you a friend, not an acquaintance, it requires a level of vulnerability has been exchanged, a level of depth in a relationship. Because I learned I just can't be friends with anyone. Like I can be friendly. I am very friendly. One of those people that leaves the house and I could talk to anybody. I could talk to anybody. But it doesn't always translate to a friendship for me. Um, so one example I'm thinking about specifically is when I try to make friendships at the workplace. Like I said, I have had 19 years of corporate experience, working in various capacity. And like I said, I'm a friendly person. I will I will generally, until maybe later in life, I will talk to you. I will listen to you. I will exchange ideas. If experiences relate to me, I will share mine. Like that's just, I think really the human experience is more rich when we share, when we exchange. You learn more from people that way. However, I learned the hard way in the workplace that you do have to start with some very clear boundaries around that. And in my case, without going into too much detail, I had befriended someone at work who I thought was a really good friend. Like the friends you go, you do lunches with, you go, you go and you kiki about the coworkers, you go and you kiki about the work, you kiki about what happened after work, you kiki about the dating, the struggles, all those things. So I really thought, oh, this person is a friend. Like they've crossed that threshold. We've been vulnerable. There's been some depth in that relationship, to the point that I believe the first time I had a gathering in my house, and I don't do those frequently because I learned I'm also not great at hosting. I get overwhelmed with the planning and the details, and it's just not. I'll come to your party. I'll bring a tray, but don't look for me to organize the party. I did that one twice and then realized again, not my vibe. Nonetheless, this was one of my, I want to host, I want to have a thing. So I had a thing, had the person over, introduced them to my community, really thought, man, this is my girl, And I would say maybe a month later, randomly out the blue, I had my employer get in touch with me and said, hey, we got, and this is very unusual, right? We got an email from someone complaining about you in detail about the way you are conducting yourself in the workplace and things they claim you have done. And I was very floored because at that time, the person I reported to, we had a great rapport. So that was the first person I went to. I was like, did you have an issue and you just weren't comfortable telling me? And they're like, no. The team members I worked with, I had no issues with. So I was very, very like confuzzled, for lack of better language. Long story short, it came out that it was this friend had, for some bizarre reason, which to today I don't understand, I won't know, sat down and drafted this email. And keep in mind, this friend worked in a whole other team department that I never interacted with for work. I rarely had circumstances to cross paths with. So there was no real reason for any resentment in terms of work deliverables or issues to build. So this was just an intentional, malicious act after, again, being friendly, meeting my family, meeting my community, etc., etc. But, survived that one. But the lesson I learned there was, again, you can be friendly with any and everyone. But you really have to have those high boundaries early on, especially in places like work where your livelihood depends on your performance there. You really have to have those boundaries. It's not to say people can't cross over. I have, I'd say a couple of people who have crossed over from work settings, but that took time. That took quite a bit of a runway for us to get to that point. It wasn't, oh, we kikied and went to lunch a couple months and then hey, we're BFFs now. Like that. I learned the hard way. You can't do that at work. You know. So that was one lesson I learned about friendship, and another lesson I learned about friendship was, aside from boundaries, you have to make sure it's reciprocal. You have to make sure what you're putting in, you are getting some, if not equivalent, out of it. And in this particular friendship example, this was someone I'd befriend with. Again, this wasn't someone new. This one I'd known for a while. But I was a younger version of me, and I was that friend. Like if you call me and you say, "Oh, you want to go on a trip?" Girl, psh, I'll figure it out. I take my enjoyment money and we're going. And I did that. I would drop everything. I would be the one who goes and if there's a get together or a party, I'm there, front row, supporting, cheering. I'm even helping plan it sometimes. Never quite paying attention to the level of effort that was being given to me, like, when my special days came up, what was done, you know, when my events occurred, which I didn't have. Like I said, I don't plan events. I'm not a big like see me person, which is why this YouTube thing is so out of character for me. But I never required much, right? But I was giving so much that the relationship was imbalanced. But as I was getting more mature, um I think I started being a bit more vocal about, not just who I was, but what I required from a friend. And one specific example was I had hosted my first, I think it was my birthday, like my birthday at my home. And up until this time, if this person hosted anything, I would show up, right? So in my case, this was the first one. And I sent out the notice to people. I don't require much, but it took a lot for me to do it, right? Had reached out to this person saying, hey, are you coming? And I can't recall what they said on the onset, but long story short, a couple days prior, they basically let me know, like, you know, I was thinking about it, but I'm also thinking about doing this other thing. I think I'm gonna go do this other thing. Like, it was very like blasé. And it was something that stuck to me, right? Because here I am for the first time asking for a level of effort that matched what I have given for years and be given a very bleak response. Um, Honestly, that friendship ran its course, and the thing I learned about friendship is that everybody is not gonna make it. Everyone you're friends with today is not gonna be who you're friends with 10 years from today, and it's okay because you're going to evolve in different directions, but it doesn't make it painful. It doesn't make it less painful though when things get severed. And in that case, that was a painful one, but it was also a lesson of pay attention. you know, are people giving what you're giving? If you're the one who's just always showing up and overdoing it and performing and etc., like is that your friend? Is that your friend? I don't know, something to consider. Again, I ain't no expert. These are my experiences. But I do think friendship, they require a level of reciprocal effort. The last example I'll give about friendship, this is where I learned when you have tough times, when you are going through, which we will all experience, some of the most challenging times in life, pay attention to who's around you. Pay attention to how they show up for you, because that's really where you get to weed out who's a friend and who's an acquaintance, and who, frankly, it might not be that they're not friends; they're just not capable of showing up for you like that. And is that who you want? And in my case, I was going through the most difficult period of my life. Like I was deep in grief. It was not pretty, but I was still trying to show up because life doesn't stop. Like, guys, shit. Just because your life has scattered doesn't mean the world stops. Bills still gotta get paid. Employees still expect you to show up. Like, that's just life. It sucks, but that's just life. You might get some time off, but you still got to get back in the game. And if you've ever experienced grief, it's not, there's no time limit. It could take you a year, it could take you 2 years. Mine took me like a decade. And frankly, it doesn't completely stop. Needless to say, in this particular friendship example, I think it was the year following the incidents. I can't remember. It was somewhere close to the incidents. I was leaving my house. I was doing things because again, life doesn't stop. But I was mentally struggling. I was struggling, right? And this particular friend was one who was was like good time friend. They like to have a good time. They like to celebrate themselves. They like to have fun. And I think it was like their birthday or something was around the corner, and they were planning. And I again, this is sidebar. I admire the girls who, when they say it's their day, they will send you the agenda, they will send you the list, they will send you the outfit coordination. Like, bruh, refer to my last video. I ain't built for that, but I love it. I love to see such detailed, like, ownership of your celebration. So in this case, this person had basically had a whole agenda, had reached out and said they were doing this thing. And on the onset, I wanted to, right? Because again, I'm the friend who's like, I'm gonna show up, I'm gonna cheer you. I want to do this for you. But deep in me, I knew, girl, just getting up and leaving the house took a lot. It took a lot, right? But I had mentally told myself, you're going to do it. You're going to do it because this the friend who shows up for the good time, right? Anyway, long story short, a few days leading up to it, I just realized I couldn't do it. I couldn't be in a group setting in a celebratory mode. I could not do it. I just couldn't. I tried. So I realized it was this awkward position where you have to, you got to tell the person. You can't stand them up the day of, right? Maybe it was like a day or two leading up to. I finally mustered up the courage to have the conversation and say, hey girl, I just can't do it. Like, I want to. I would love to be there for you. And in past times I have been there. But this just, my spirit, myself isn't led. And in hindsight, like, I think I was being hard on myself when I was even having this conversation. It wasn't a huge ask. it wasn't ridiculous to say I can't make it and give me some grace, right? But this friend went off on me. This friend went off on me. This friend threw some very painful things at me, referenced some very painful memories, and used it as reasons to substantiate why my character was so poor and why I wouldn't show up for them. And it was an onslaught that I just, till today, I replay those conversations and go, wow. And the reason it really hit me wasn't necessarily like because they were upset. I expect you to be upset, but to go and dig up things that are painful to the other person and bring it forward in that particular moment, that speaks volumes about your perception of that person. And if it's that poor, again, Question: is that your friend? So anyway, long story short, that too ran its course. But all of this ramblings to say, I have been reflecting on friendships lately, specifically because, like I said, this YouTube thing started with me saying, and I'm gonna create playlists because I've gotten some feedback. So I'm gonna create a playlist that kind of organizes these little videos. But it started with me being curious about wanting to change something in my life, wanting to, I'm 42, I'm in this place where I could keep doing what I'm doing, but I just, in my gut, I just knew, like I want to be a CFO, I want to be a SVP. I just knew that wasn't the road, but I didn't know what I was capable of. And I still am learning what I'm capable of or what I could do. But I also knew I like YouTube. I like seeing people start something simple and see it flourish into something big. I like how people build community on YouTube. And my big thing of coming on YouTube was I wanted to find people I had things in common with. I wanted to find people who maybe have gone through similar transitions or are in an exploratory phase in their life, which is where I am, trying to figure out how do I morph into something else that I'm accustomed to being. So, with that being said, up until now, I haven't opened the comment section. And there's a reason for that. Because one, because like I said, I wanted these videos, the get to know me, the series I was doing, which is now going to be coming to an end. I'm not sure when, we're following the vibe, we'll see. But I wanted those videos of the get to know me to be really a get to know me. I'm presenting myself to you. I'm giving you snippets into my mindset. I'm giving you my thought process. I'm helping you paint my character, my personality before we engage in dialogue and we become friends, because I am curious who's watching this. I am I am curious who has followed this through, outside of my family and friends who I love dearly and have been giving me their feedback on the side. But I am curious who else is in the room with me. And the only thing I ask is, again, mutual respect. And like I said, I do a positive reinforcement, safe spaces. That's my vibe. But if you want to go mad, I can go mad too. I don't have Twitter, but I got Twitter fingers. You see how I am with the words. So don't, please, just be nice. Is all I ask. Just be nice. Let's be friends, and let's see what comes out of this new relationship that I'm trying to establish on YouTube. All right, that was it. I hope you have a good weekend, and we'll see what the next one brings. All right, bye.